Well, as our celebration of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month continues in the college sports world, we're joined now by one of our team physicians, Leyen Vu. Dr. Vu, I think it would be appropriate for our audience if you disclosed where you got your undergrad first, so we can clear that air.
Yes, I did get it at University of Washington over in Seattle a while back, and so, but hey, don't hold it against me though, right?
Now you got a couple. You got another. You got more Pac-12 ties than just UW, correct?
So did my training down in Arizona at a private school, but then did my sports medicine fellowship training over at University of Utah, and so yeah, bounce back and forth around the Pac-12.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, just quickly, why did you pick going into sports medicine as a youth?
One of the big things about sports medicine that was such a big draw is working with athletes and just a patient population that was really motivated to get better, motivated to excel, and being around that sort of population elevates you too, right? And so to get them back to doing something that they love, to be something that they is a part of them, you can, in being part of athletics now, you can really relate to that, and so it elevates. You help them, and then it elevates you too.
Now, as we go through AAPI Heritage Month, in the broad spectrum of the communities, what community do you identify with the most under the AAPI umbrella?
Asians or Vietnamese. I'm of a Vietnamese, full Vietnamese background.
Born in the United States, born in Vietnam?
I was born here in the United States in Olympia, Washington. My parents immigrated here after the Vietnam War.
Okay, good stuff. And then what does Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month mean to you specifically?
Being an Asian American, you kind of, and Pat, you can probably attest to this too, you kind of feel like you live a little bit of I don't want to say a dual life, but you have a background that is so rich in culture from both aspects. One that you live here almost day to day, and one that has been a part of you way before you were born. And this month is really honoring sort of the heritage that you have come from, that has led to who you are and where you're at right here, right? And so for me personally, it is really honoring my ancestors, and everybody that not just family, friends and family, and with the Vietnamese culture that has been riddled with war. It's honoring all of those that have gone through so much.
You made me think when you talk about the differences, and even the differences in your own families.
Yes.
Because I'm going to guess, like, my parents are immigrants. Like, our parents, my guess, if they're like mine, were firm in their beliefs of who they are and what it means to be Vietnamese and what it means to be Korean.
Yes.
As kids born here, raised in an American environment, that is not as simple.
Yeah.
So as we talk about even who we are to this day, because as children of immigrants, you go on this journey to figure out how you mesh what it means to be American, what it means to be Vietnamese in your case, Korean in my case. And it goes on a pretty windy road, especially I grew up in the 80s, where you get tackled with a bunch of stereotypes and prejudice and microaggressions, but we're in a day and age now where unfortunately, there's more awareness on the AAPI community because of the hate crime specifically going on. But you and I work in this wonderful environment that we have a bunch of student athletes that are demanding in the environment that is theirs, that they want more education, more dialogue, more discussions about all the differences that make college athletics so special. So it's the melding of all these worlds are why we're here talking about the AAPI Heritage Month. But at least for you and I, we have a responsibility here because we work with so many student athletes that are very curious, that, as you said, it's the fun part of the job. We got young people here that want to get better physically, get better academically, get better socially, have a better understanding of why the world works. And that, and at the end of the day, that's a pretty special environment to be in.
Right. No, you hit it on the head.
So what does it mean to you specifically to be an Asian American in sports?
I see it in two arenas right now. Number one, let's just say in medicine, right? Being an Asian American in medicine Asians are not considered underrepresented minorities in medicine. I think that there's quite a bit of good representation in terms of Asian Americans in medicine. In sports is a different story. I think sports is a different story. You don't see, and I'll be transparent about it. You don't see a lot of Asians in sports.
Yeah.
Relatively, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a blessing and a curse. And I think that there's some preconceived notions about Asians that kind of can hurt us as Asians in this arena. I think that there's definitely with especially our athletes or just in general as a department, there's a certain amount that everyone wants to be relatable, right? And just on face value, because there's not that many Asians in sports, I think Asians are pegged with a certain stereotype that we have to work through. And I'll say it, I don't think it's a positive stereotype. And so it's more of a challenge than it is a benefit. But it's nothing not insurmountable, but it's like other underrepresented groups, it's a challenge that you got to fight through every day.
Yeah, if you go into the road and specifically to, I would say, both our careers, there are going to be hurdles, some higher than what other groups have to face. But the reality is you got to be willing to jump over those hurdles. And fortunately, I'm guessing you kind of had the same probably background with me is, a lot of times along that road and along those hurdles, you get blessed by a lot of really great people and a lot of great relationships that kind of guide you and help navigate you. And like anything, like, to be in a position like yours, that road is not easy, but you surround yourself with the right people that help you go along the way. That does help you get to a place that most people have not gotten to.
Right. And that I'll allude to a comment they made before about how great it is with this environment, with how much diversity we have here in the department, but not just that, but people wanting to get better, wanting to excel, socially, academically, athletically. What is really nice is that I feel, and this is why I feel at home in our department, is that so many other individuals have struggles or challenges in a similar but different light. You know what I mean? It's especially with in this summer and this whole year, this Black Lives Matter group. I think it's such a great, in terms of it's elevated people and challenged them, and it's and someone like ourselves, right, can really use that platform as well and to improve other groups as well, and so that's where I think it's been really beneficial with our cohort here.
Any challenges you personally that you're willing to share that you faced because of your race and how you overcame them?
There's some that are a lot more blatant, and some that were more of these microaggressions. I think the more common ones are the microaggressions.
Yeah.
But I'll try to relate it to sports. I remember, so I played football in high school, and so I was trying out, and I got the vibe already that my teammates said, "You know what, we don't think you can play."
Oh wow.
Okay. I remember, on a couple practices, I get hit, and they turn around and they'd say, "Stay down, you blank," and it was a racial slur.
Yeah.
And this was, and they kind of, they were joking. Hey, I'm just kidding, but we were right. I was able to hit back, and also in a football sense, right? Yeah. And gain confidence that way, where they're like, oh man, this guy can play. He can play a little bit. Now, did the comments stop? No, but it got better, right? It got better. And that's where some of the stereotypes kind of got tampered down a little bit.
Yeah. Uh, I have the same. You just look. I played high school football too.
Yeah.
I have the same, similar horror stories that we can share at a different time. But it's just a product of the time we were growing up, and those things weren't acceptable then, but they were still being said. I tell my kids all the time they're fortunate that they're growing up in this day and age because a lot of like what's been said and done and how people were treated in the past would not be, at least to my best knowledge, would not be tolerated anymore. So speaking of which, things are improving. What has improved for Asian Americans or Pacific Islanders since you started your career in sports medicine?
I have to say, I think that really, especially in this past year, I think it's improved dramatically. I think that having the conversation, I think what's an improvement, Pat, really, is us talking right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. This is something that I don't think that would have been put to the forefront before.
You're right, because this is important to me, but it's more important to our athletic department that we're having these conversations. And I think like you're in the same boat. It's important to you that we're talking, but it's more important to Washington State athletics that you and I are talking. And that's a pretty different place to be at. That we're not pushing this. It's our department wants to learn more, and our student athletes want to learn more, and that's a pretty great place to be at.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And the thing is that all this is baby steps, right? Yeah. We're not gonna tear down walls and in overnight. And so recognition is the first step, and then taking that into action is the next step in my book. And so I think that really it's just people being aware is different than it was before. It was and so so I think that's a huge step in and of itself.
You got any advice for someone, an Asian American or Pacific Islander that wants to break into sports medicine?
I would say what's nice right now is that I honestly didn't, going through the process, I didn't feel blatant sort of racism or barrier saying you can't do this because of your race, right? It was maybe more so of when you get into an athletic department like this, at a high level athletic department like this, and you don't see a lot of Asians. And saying, hey, do you really understand what we go through and such like that, right? Yeah. I think that for someone wanting to break into the sports industry, I'd say keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But you got to be confident.
Yeah.
You have to be assured of who you are. In yourself, because if you let that kind of permeate, that you're like, oh, do I belong here? Then you're gonna get eaten alive. And I think this goes along with anything in athletics, right? I think, but especially with this topic, I think that it's more than ever, you got to go in there and say, hey, you know what, I belong here, and people will feed off of that, and then and you'll reap what you sow. So
belief is one of the most powerful words in sports and in life. And
yeah,
what you believe is what you become, good, bad, or indifferent. Is there something you're most proud of your Vietnamese heritage?
Resilience.
Yeah, I love it.
I and it's you think about, you try to extrapolate to your own life right now, and saying, over the course of 2 years or so, you get stripped of everything you have here. You get separated from your family, and you get moved across the world and have to start fresh
with nothing.
And what's that? With nothing.
Yeah, literally.
With literally nothing, right? And and I have to say, my family and myself have been extremely gracious and grateful for the state of Washington for being sponsors to our family, making that transition and immigrating over here. But what it takes to get back on your feet, to get your confidence back, to find out what your identity is going to be in this new environment, to assimilate, but at the same time keep your heritage and stay true to that. And Pat, I know I'm speaking to the choir with you. It takes an amount of strength that is unimaginable. And even if I try to imagine it right now, going through it is a whole different ballgame.
Hey, I tell my kids all the time, I could not do it, what my mom and dad did. I couldn't move to a foreign country, not know the language, just hope that you get a job as soon as you get there. I mean, I could not have, I would not have the will, I would not have the desire, I would not have the courage to do that. I mean, that takes a different mindset to want to do that with your life.
And I think you're absolutely right. And the thing is that reinventing yourself. So some of my family members and other family and friends that have immigrated had completely different careers or lifestyles or existences in Vietnam. They come over here and it's completely, you got to adapt to what you have, and it's humbling. And you're right. You can't even imagine those days that are just so hard, picking yourself back up and saying, no, I got to keep on trucking. I got to keep trucking and keep on moving forward. And that takes an incredible amount of emotional and physical and mental strength.
Now, do you have a favorite traditional meal from your Vietnamese heritage?
Yes, it is and it might be a little cliche a little bit, but it is really, it is a bowl of pho is made well and authentic wise. It's comfort food, and so but I'm glad that it's become quite mainstream now that other people can experience it too.
I would guess that the ones that my daughters make and put hot water into a pre-made isn't the comfort food you're thinking about. You're thinking of
funny thing you said. Actually, it's gotten they dialed it down pretty good to it's actually some brands are better than others, but it can be pretty good.
It's in our bi-weekly Costco shopping list.
Yeah.
You're right. That's how mainstream and popular it is, at least in our household. So, hey, Dr. Vu, I appreciate your time. I appreciate, on behalf of our student athletes, we don't get a chance to tell our sports medicine people, thank you for what you do for us, especially this, even beyond the pandemic, but what you and your colleagues have done this past year, it's just nothing short of superhero-like for all of us here in athletics. And you guys always go the extra mile, but to get us through this year, I know we got a little bit of time left, but we really appreciate what you do for us. And you're a role model for many, especially young Asian Americans and that aspire to be in sports, aspire to be in sports medicine, take pride in the fact that, hey, those dreams that your parents came over with to this country, they've come true, at least in Pullman. So that's pretty awesome. So, and like always, go Cougs.
Hey, thank you so much. And it's my pleasure. And I've had a great time since I've been here. And really, you can't do this without the help of people. The role that I'm playing here there's so much that goes beyond, behind the scenes, front and center, behind the scenes, backstage, there's so much credit that needs to be dispersed, especially during this pandemic. So thank you, though.
Go Cougs, Leyen. Thank you.
Thank you.